What's up, you guys? How you doing today? So today we're going to be talking about this question that I got when I was streaming the other day from Dragon Bane. Dragon Bane says, Neo, I'm a solo player and I was wondering what type of setup is best for me. I like a Warframe primary, secondary, and or melee weapon. So awesome question. I get this a bunch actually, and I thought I'd make a video about it. So we're gonna take a look at different warframes and weapon setups, and ultimately what you guys wanna be doing and stuff if you're a solo player. Now, personally, if I were gonna choose a warframe that I was gonna take out with me for to solo the entire game and everything, personally I would take a Naros. That's just what I would do. I'm gonna give you guys a list of other warframes to choose from because he's not the only frame that you could do the entire game with, but for me personally, a Naros is definitely the one. This dude is such a tank of a warframe, and he's got such a variety of abilities that you could be using to help you get through the game, along the lines of him just having a lot of armor, him being extremely strong, him being able to self-revive, being able to like revive himself, or even just the ability for him to keep himself alive with, him being able to pull health back out of enemies and then turn them into his allies and stuff. He's just one of the best warframes in the game, in my opinion. I'm just such a fan of Inaros. I'm glad he happened. And I'm also glad DE kind of started making more warframes like him. But as far as like survivability and playability goes, but let's kind of get into it. We're looking at Ash Prime right now. Ash Prime, I wouldn't necessarily solo the game with Ash Prime, although you couldn't. That doesn't mean you can't do it. Banshee, I think, would be cool to solo the game with, but it might as well be, like, in a way, it might as well be really hard mode to solo the game with Banshee, because Banshee is pretty squishy, although she does have that sonar ability, which is going to make you guys able to have multipliers on your shots when you hit the enemies. You basically are going to be able to, like, if you have your multiplier high enough, just wipe any enemy out at a ridiculously fast pace, because you're going to have that multiplier on there. Chroma is a super tanky warframe. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that are big Chroma fans that would say, oh yeah, definitely, I would love, like soloing the game of Chroma is a piece of cake. It's just, the best. Definitely going to recommend Frost. Frost is absolutely a big deal. I would recommend you guys all have a Frost anyway. Just he should be one of the warframes that you guys have in your arsenal, especially if you're a solo player. I definitely recommend you guys have a Frost. And you just, use him for a lot of the missions in the game. He's just incredible for, like, defending, for the mobile defenses, the defenses, survivals, interceptions. Like, that bubble ability he has is just fantastic. Really, really great frame for soloing the game, and definitely one of the first frames I'd recommend you get, even on your way to getting maybe any of these other frames. Definitely get a Frost as early as you can in the game. We talked about Inaros. Vara is definitely one that I wouldn't mind soloing the game with. I think that'd be pretty fun to do it with the Vara. I also think she's incredibly capable of making it not a pain in the butt to solo the game with, so I definitely recommend her. Let's see who else. Loki, I wouldn't necessarily solo the game with Loki, although I would recommend you have a Loki because his, ability to go invisible, his quickness, it all adds up. It all turns him into a great frame. He'd be amazing for like rescue, spies, capture missions, all that sort of stuff. Just things that you can kind of speed run through and just be invisible and just get through the mission, not really worry about it much. But he's definitely would be a good one for that. Let's talk about Mesa. Mesa, if you guys build her the right way, it basically would take, I'm just going to show you guys what the ability says about Mesa, because she definitely would be a really good one. So where is it? Her third ability envelops Mesa in a barrier of energy, reflecting back incoming bullet damage. Whatever the damage is, like let's say the enemy was supposed to damage you 100, you're only going to get 5% damage from that enemy instead of 100, because you have a 95% reduction on whatever, incoming damage that you take. So if the enemy was going to hurt you with, like, let's say 200 damage, you're going to wind up only taking 10, like losing 10 health, and so on and so forth. So basically, it's just 95% reduction. That's a great ability for Mesa. It's one of the ones that I'd say if you were going to be, like, if you're going to use Mesa all the time, that's definitely the ability you want to be using definitely all the time, is that Shatter Shield one right there. So getting into other frames that we could solo the game with. And again, I feel you could probably solo the game with every frame. I'm just not trying to turn this into a pain in the ass for you guys and make it a little bit easier so that you guys kind of could be like, oh, alright, well, I didn't realize I could play the game with that character like that. Nezu, personally, I don't think anybody would ever want to main the game with Nezu, except for maybe me and Rob from A Gay Guy Plays, because I know he said he likes Nezu. But I think Nezu is an awesome frame, and I definitely think you could solo the game with Nezu if you were playing her right. The other one we have is Nidus is a super tank. I definitely recommend you guys go ahead and if you really wanted to, if you got a hold of Nidus for whatever reason, let's say maybe you had some plat and you were like, I'm going to buy Nidus, I don't want to farm him, which I recommend you guys save all your plat. You know, if anything you can earn in the game easily, just go earn it in the game. But anything that you can't earn, I would say, you know, anything you can't earn is what I'd say go spend your plat on, like cosmetics and stuff. But Nidus would definitely be a cool one to kind of like go through the game with. He's super tanky, and you'd be able to keep yourself alive a while. Nova is, let's see, where'd she go here? Nova, you could solo the game with Nova. She's a great frame. She's definitely another one of the top 5 that I recommend you guys have in your arsenal, just as far as like what frame should you absolutely definitely have. Nova's one of them, but she can be very squishy. But at the same time, there are so many things that will just make your life a lot easier having a Mesa around. I mean, a Nova around. My personal recommendation for soloing the game, you guys, is literally the Frost is what I'd recommend. Maybe the Rhino would even be my second biggest recommendation. So I'd say Rhino is a complete tank. And he's really good with crowd control. So he's definitely one that you guys could solo the game with as well. You'd be keeping yourself alive for a while. And, you know, you just basically be stomping enemies up into the air so that they're not going to be able to hurt you or anything for a while. You can just pick them off while they're floating in the air. What other frames would I recommend that you guys could solo the game with? Valkyrie. Valkyrie's another one I'd recommend you guys have in your arsenal just for the sake. She's another top 5 I'd recommend you guys have just for the sake of Valkyrie being able to keep herself alive for a while. Especially when you're using her ultimate ability, you're basically invincible unless you run into a nullifier, or unless you run into an enemy that is going to be draining your energy really fast. Valkyrie is completely like indestructible against anything else in the game. So again, unless you run into a nullifier or one of those enemies that are draining your energy really fast, you basically could be invincible forever. So just don't run into a nullifier, and if you see enemies that are, you know, like draining, kill them immediately. Just get them dead as soon as possible. Vauban, I suppose it'd be possible to solo the game with Vauban. You know, and when I say possible, again, it's possible with all of them. I just mean like fairly decently, you know, like, you know, average. Like, would you have an average time, or would it be super easy? If it's going to be a hard time, I probably didn't even talk about the frame except for Banshee. The other ones, just imagine to be a hard time. For the most part, that about wraps it up for the Warframes. The only thing that I want you guys to pull away from as far as weapons goes, primary, secondary, and melee, my personal advice on what you guys should take with you is whatever you are, you know, like happiest with. Whatever weapon you have the most fun using for soloing the game, that's what I would take with me. Now, how to build those weapons makes all the difference in the world. So this is what's important. When you guys play any mission in the game, no matter what the mission is, what you're going to find is that all these enemies get taken down. Let's say you're fighting the Grineer. Well, there's going to be different Grineer enemies. You're not going to be just fighting only the Butcher when you go do a mission. You're not going to be fighting like I don't know, any other Grineer. You're not going to just fight one Grineer enemy the entire time that you're in a mission. You're going to be fighting a bunch of them. So ideally, what you want to do is you want to have different weapons set up for different procs. So like, when I was getting through the game, the senpais that were kind of teaching me how to play this game and like earlier on would always say, if you don't know what to build something for, just on, you know, like general rule of thumb is just build it for corrosive. So now that I know what to build stuff for, what I'm going to tell you guys is the same thing. If you don't know what to build it for corrosive. But I'd also throw in there, make sure that only one of your weapons is a corrosive build. Like, let's say whatever weapon you primarily use, if that's the secondary you primarily use, if you use your melee primarily, whatever weapon you primarily are using as you run through these missions, build that one for corrosive. The other ones I would recommend you build for radiation, you build for viral. You just make sure they have a different build on them. This way, when you're, you know, let's say fighting the Grineer, the Infested, the Corpus, whatever you're fighting, when you get to a certain enemy that like is maybe has a resistance to, let's say, corrosive, you're gonna want to switch to another weapon and kill them with the other weapon if you're finding it difficult to kill them with a weapon that, you know, has the corrosive build on it. So basically, that's what you want to do as far as your primary, secondary, melee. Just make sure you build them so that, you know, the elementals on them are built differently. You don't want to have all corrosive. You don't want to have all radiation. You don't want to have all viral, but you definitely want to have a mix of all three of those. And I'm not limiting it to just corrosive, viral, and radiation, but those are definitely great ones for you to just have and start with, as far as, like, you know, what could help me get through this game way faster. So, for the most part, that about wraps it up. I know companions weren't mentioned, but I'll just throw this out there. Companions, it's really whatever you're happy with. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't really matter. As far as gear goes, you guys could have the helpers, like the friendly helpers or whatever the specters. You guys could have specters equipped if you really want to. I never use specters. But if I were soloing the game, I probably would. I probably would totally use specters if I were soloing the game. So that's another option you guys can have when you come across bosses that might be a pain in the butt to, like, kill. Throw down all the specters that you can, and just to help you kill that enemy or whatever. But basically, that's really about it, you guys. Those are the Warframes that I recommend. Honestly, my top recommendations would be a Frost, a Rhino, and a Naros. Maybe even an Ivara, I would throw that in there. Those would be my top recommendations for frames to solo the game with. Oh, and Valkyr, I'll throw Valkyr in there. Those are the ones I'd recommend that you guys solo the game with. And as far as weapons, like I said before, it doesn't matter what particular weapon you want to use. Pick the one you have the most fun with. Just make sure you're building these weapons for different elemental procs. For just, you know, the basically so that the weapons are not going to just, you know, be immune to certain enemies and then just be really good at killing other enemies. You want to have a variety of procs or a variety of elemental setups on your weapons. And honestly, that's going to help you guys get through the game better than anything else. And that's really just going to wrap it up right now as far as that question goes for being a solo player and what setup is best for you. Honestly, pick the frame that you have the most fun using, but you guys, that about wraps it up. If you guys want to see any more tutorials or anything like that on Warframe, you guys, there's going to be tons of links in the description below where I have playlists set up for you. You guys can check out walkthrough videos on Warframe, just see if there's any video that, you know, kind of like works for you on there, that's something you're looking for. You guys can learn how to make a ridiculous amount of platinum too. I have been putting out a lot of plat videos, and there's so many people that are just making thousands and thousands of plat in the game, so you guys can check out the playlist down there for the platinum. There's going to be a bunch of other things like comedy videos and just all that sort of stuff, but a lot of Warframe stuff related, and definitely very helpful stuff based off of the feedback that I'm getting off of all these videos. So you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for watching this video. I love your faces, and I will see you guys later.